going on, Creckies? It's Brandon McGee here. Yes, I'm back again. If you have been enjoying our series on hidden gems and on the shoulders of, you will, or rather, you're in for an amazing treat today. We have two amazing individuals, leaders from the greater Hartford community. And today we will continue our conversation within the series of On the Shoulders of Changemakers. However, we're going to highlight Blacks in politics and really unpack what it means for Black people in the political space. And I don't want to steal their thunder. I don't want to take away from the conversation. So I want to engage former mayor of Bloomfield, Suzette DeBeatham-Brown, and current chairman or chair of the East Hartford, I was going to say Bloomfield, but East Hartford,
don't do
Board,
East
Hartford Board of Education chair. And also, I want to say you're the treasurer, Tyron V. Harris of the CREC Council as well. So you have a double sort of, vice chair. Excuse me. Excuse me. I need to catch up with my my bio updates. I stand corrected. So chair of the East Hartford Board of Education and also vice chairman of the CREC Council. So CRECies, the CREC Council is basically comprised of many of our alliance districts, including our executive director, Dr. Gregory Florio and others. So anyway, if we had a virtual round of applause, it would be like right now, welcoming you both to the CREC space. And also I welcome each and every one of our CRECies again. So starting off with the lady, Madam Councilor from Bloomfield, share a little bit about your background and how you got involved in politics. And the same question will go for you, Tyron.
Wow. Thank you so very much, Brandon, for the invite. And thank you, CREC, for making this space available. So my name is Suzette DeBeatham-Brown. And how did I get into politics? I kind of wonder that sometimes myself. Back in 2016, 2017, we were having some issues with racial profiling. The Trayvon Martin situation was hot. It was just taking place. I am a wife, a mother, a minister. I have 3 amazing children, 2 beautiful daughters, and 1 princely son. And when the racial profiling was happening to African...
Princely. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
When the racial profiling was happening, it was happening to young Black men. So while I was just being that ferocious mama, lending my voice to that conversation, I was tapped to run for elected office. And I said to them, I don't think I'm the right one. You know, I can be a little loud. I can be a little opinionated. I can be a little bit passionate. And they said, that's exactly what we need. So I said, if you can't find nobody else, come back and talk to me. In that meantime, I spoke with my family, prayed about it, got some advice, Brandon, and ultimately decided to run for town council. At that time, our town council was men and women of a certain age. And we were just looking for experience, right? So we asked permission, can we have a couple seats? They basically said no. One gentleman said power is never given, it's always taken. So we primaried. We won all 6 Democratic seats during the primary. And during the general election, we were elected and I became the first Black Caribbean female mayor of this amazing town of Bloomfield. And I now serve as Councilwoman Suzette DeBeatham-Brown.
But you know what? Because we're in a very safe space and we're also highlighting the importance of changemakers that the two of you are, it's important to say that they were white males, right? White males dominating the space. It's okay. Let's call it what it is. Dominating the space. And it was just important that you were there. and able to represent a large population of folk that look just like you. So that's dope. That's powerful. Tyron, what about you?
Well, first, thank you, Brandon, for inviting me to be participating in this conversation this afternoon in this virtual space. So as Brandon mentioned, my name is Tyron Harris. I serve the East Hartford community. And what got me involved was interest when I was in college. I read an article that said, from Hartford, raised in East Hartford, that at that point, Hartford was one of the world's most dangerous cities. And that was like right around like 2006, 2007. And so I felt like I wanted to go back home. That for me, I was like, no, that's not the community I love. That's not the city that I grew up in. I want to be a change agent. I want to be able to contribute some type of way. So I started, as I was approaching my senior year in college, in undergrad, I said, let me start looking for jobs back home. And I, went on several interviews and got a job offer, even some job offers back in New York City. But I felt like, no, my home is Connecticut and I want to make a difference. And I remember when I drove down our street, we lived in a cul-de-sac. And at the beginning of my cul-de-sac was former Senator Gary LeBeau, and at that time, former Senator Tim Larson. And Tim Larson was my next door neighbor. And I pulled up with the truck, and he said, "Are you ready to get involved?" And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "You have to get involved with the DTC. I need you to, get involved on some commissions here in town." I'm like, I just graduated college. I'm only 23 years old. And he said, "No, this is a perfect time for you." And I said, "Let me think about it." He came back the next day with some ties. And he said, "Hey, here's a gift to get you started in this world of politics." So he handed me a bag of his old ties. And then so for me, I got involved with DTC, the East Hartford Democratic Town Committee. I ran for the school board at the age of 23, didn't get elected. Just wasn't my time. I still stayed involved. I still continued to work in small little subsets of groups, got involved in the Urban League, got involved in NAACP, and then right around 2009, it was another opportunity for me to run for the school board. I was running against two incumbents, and I felt like the board at that time did not have a representation of people that looked like me, from that millennial generation. And I felt like what other opportunity would I have to really be at the table, right? Not only be at the table, but kind of help shape and help our leaders and our parents and our communities reimagine how we present ourselves as board education members. And I was able to beat out two incumbents at the age of 24. And I've been serving on the school board ever since. So I've been on the school board since 2009. And really what got me involved—
What is that, like 18 years?
I know. So for me, it's really just continue to contribute where I can and continue to be an active voice for all students, for all communities, no matter the color of your skin. I really truly want to be that active voice and be a voice that will be a change agent for our community, no matter what.
So being a change maker agent, oftentimes come with risks, come with very difficult sort of decisions you got to make, and most times standing on an island by yourself in order to create opportunities for folks looking to stand on your shoulders, right? And so being at the table, Suzette, you talked about being at the table. There's a quote, if you are not at the table, then you're on the menu, right? How has it been as two individuals who have experienced the first, in most cases, like Tyron, I believe you are the first Black HR director at your current employment, right?
Wow.
It's
wow.
Crazy. He's the first, right? And so what has it been like being at the table, being Black in politics, whether it's on the municipal side or at the tables of our Board of Education? Talk to us a little bit about the challenges. And sorry, CRECies, I am at CREC Central, where you can hear change coming out of the vending machine. But it's okay, because this is a virtual space. But talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges of being the first, but also making sure you're committed to lifting up everyone, but especially Black folk as you continue to matriculate in your, either one of you can start.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's two things in this space when you think about human resources. One, you don't see a lot of African-American men and women in this space, number one. Number two, you see a lot of men in this space, right? You see a lot of, when I came into this space, that's what I went to college for, went to graduate school for, this space was dominant by white women, right? And a few white men that were retired attorneys that decided to enter into this human resources space. And so that's always been a challenge. It's still a challenge today, but I think we're making headway. But I think for me, what always kept me grounded and understanding that I was sent here for a purpose, right? And I believe in the importance of changing culture, but changing culture where it's a way where you get commitment and not compliance, right? For me, any space I enter, and I want to make sure I actually get the commitment from individuals, get the commitments from the community, get the commitment from employees so that they truly buy in and you can actually effectively change culture, right? And I think it is hard, but what I've always tried to remember is to think about how I grew up, the community that I've been in, may not have an opportunity to be at this table, but how can I help them and get them open, get the doors open and get them access to this table, right? And the thing I can think about, the most relevant thing I can think about right now is when I was at Target, we were doing a lot of interviews and they said to me, Tyron, the Windsor store, these stores in the greater Hartford community, it's tough to hire. We can't hire people. And so I said, why can't you hire people? They said, we don't know why, we just can't hire them. We're not getting qualified the applicants that we needed. So I took a step back and I observed the interview process. And I said, okay, you have to recognize that people in these communities, they're going to be coming to these interviews in shorts and sweatpants and sneakers and boots and sweatshirts. They don't have suits and ties. So if if we're basing it on just their outer appearance and not actually the substance of that resume, the substance of the application, the substance of their skills, we're doing ourselves a disservice and we're doing the community a disservice. So once we were able to change that mindset of how we looked at our applicants, our stores started to be easier to hire. We were able to actually get people into the community, from the community into our stores, because we reimagine what the applicant looked like, right? And I'm not saying that, people shouldn't walk in there and present their best self, and you got the Urban League who gives out suits and ties. But at that time, when you're opening up a new store and you're seeing 40, 50 people that's dressed like this, but you're dismissing them just based off of that, think about that impact, think about that message, think about the brand, right? And that the brand that I really wanted, the culture I was trying to create at that time in any space in this HR world, is to really, truly think about and assess and take chances, reimagine what that applicant will look like, right? So I would encourage anyone really out there, when you think about any space you're entering, when you're the first and you're the only, always come from a lens and a standpoint of, all right, if I was in that person's shoes, or I'm familiar with this community, they haven't been exposed to it, they don't know what this means, they don't know what it looks like. Help them understand and have those seek to understand conversations. And that's what I always find helpful is once you have those seek to understand conversations with different subgroups and different affinity groups to understand what the issues are, you can actually start breaking down barriers.
And I agree, right? And that can be brought into a political space. It's difficult, right? It's difficult being the first. It's difficult being a Black female, right, in a leadership role that has usually been held by men and for years by Caucasian men. So coming into this role, I heard a lot, we've never done it this way before. We've never done that before. We've never thought about it that way before. And I said to them, well, that's great, right? Now we have an opportunity to think differently. Now we have an opportunity to be creative and to come outside the box. For me, that was the challenge. Hearing, we've never done it this way before. Maybe you need to slow down, or maybe you really need to think about this, or that's not this position. You're probably in the wrong place. and I heard a lot of that, but as you're saying, standing on the shoulders of, there were great women like Trudy Merrow that I knew, and Veronica Airy Wilson, and I've heard of Carrie Saxton Perry, my mother, my grandmother, great women that if they believed in something, if they had passion for something, you're going to hear me out, right? At the end of the day, we may not agree. We can agree to disagree and move on, right? We can agree to disagree and commit to whatever it is that's in the best interest of. And sitting at that table, it's the best interest of everyone in our community. Sitting at that table, I amplify my voice for every single resident of the town of Bloomfield, but also realizing that me sitting at that table gives somebody else hope. Me sitting at that table is someone else's possibility. So while we have not seen someone like me before, I stand on the shoulders of a Joe Suggs, who was the first African-American mayor for the town of Bloomfield. I stand on his shoulders because if that door was never open, we don't know what would have happened. But I also sit proudly in my chair with my thoughts and my opinions on how to move our town forward collectively in the best interest of everyone. So when I'm sitting at the table, it's how is it going to affect me? Because me, as that person sitting in the seat, represents so many other members of our community. I've encouraged people, don't just look outside your window, but look around the corner to see how it's going to affect someone else. So while the conversation might be heated and the disagreements might be fierce, it's important that a voice like mine is at the table, because you're correct. Either we're setting the agenda or we're on the agenda. And I think this time it's so much important for us to help to set the agenda. So the pushback that you get, you come home and you remember all the women that has gone before you in different spheres of life, that you can pick up the phone and say, Miss Veronica, how did you handle? Or Mom, today was a bad day. And what she says is, sweetheart, it was a bad day. Get yourself a good night's rest and show up tomorrow.
That's right. That's amazing. I mean, oftentimes, and having served myself in the General Assembly for 10 years, I've had plenty of those days of being like, okay, this is crazy. Why have I committed myself to this? But at the end of the day, you're always drawn back to the why and also the passion connected to that why. Or a special phone call, because we have text messages like we do now, but a phone call of somebody saying, you know what, thank you so much for helping me out. I wouldn't have been able to do ... And so it reminds you of the why. I guess one of the questions that I think is so important, and especially as a lot of my colleagues are watching this interview, this series, and understanding even more the importance of why Black folk and people of color are always talking about people before them and, standing on the shoulders of. Can you unpack, either one of you, unpack a little bit of the challenges Blacks in politics are faced with versus their counterparts who sometimes don't have to be concerned with some of the weightier issues because of the varying circumstances. It could be in the field of education or as a town councilor. So any one of you, what are some of the challenges that Blacks in politics are faced with?
We don't see us. I believe, other ethnic groups, if you speak to a Caucasian man, he believes that he should be there. He was groomed to be leader or groomed to be a politician. That was his course in life. I think for us, it's a little bit different. We have to, and it's like this in life in general. We have to be smarter. We have to be stronger. We have to fight for our seat at the table, or bring a folding chair, or prove to someone that we should be there. and that we should be taken seriously, and that we do have thoughts and opinions and feelings and emotions, and that we can bring something substantive to a conversation or to a policy, to a committee. I think for us, it's easy for us to shirk back because we don't see. The road has not been paved. The mentorship has not been there. No one will say, okay, come let me mentor you for you to take my seat. Right? Because once we get a seat, we're going to hold on to that for dear life because I may never get this chance again. And God forbid I try to mentor you and then you come and take my seat. Ooh, I think that's the problem. And then the discouragement when you get there, be like, oh, I don't want to be bothered with this. This is not what I signed up for. Right. So I think it's a lot of education.
Or expecting once you do get there to solve all of the problems
in 60 days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you don't, they're going to come back at you and say, well, what you doing for us? I helped you to get there. What you doing? Right. So I think it's the training, the teaching, the mentorship that we don't have.
And the education.
That we didn't
how
have.
Politics work, right?
Exactly, that we didn't have. And I see there's a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train, right? Because here we are, we're sitting having these conversations. And that's why I said thank you to CREC for making this space. We have other organizations, Greek organizations, that's helping people to say, hey, you want to run? Let's teach you how. Let's teach you how to raise money. Let's teach you how to create a PAC. That's right. Let's teach you those things.
We're using acronyms.
I'm sorry.
What are these?
A political action committee where you can raise money to support elected officials. New language, right? For someone like me who grew up in the church and all I knew was, the 66 books of the Bible. That's a whole different story. So I think it's important that we have the education, we make the space available, we encourage people, we train people so that we can take over take over the seat and feel comfortable in that space, that we are amplifying our voices and we're lending ourselves to meaningful conversations that's going to impact, period.
Tyron?
No, Suzette said it well. I think,
Drop the mic, huh?
100% agree. I mean, impact, the mentorship, the system was not built for us. And now we're swimming against the tide. And that's something that as Suzette mentioned, it's starting to see the light in the tunnel. We're not quite at the end of the tunnel, but that light is definitely breaking through that dark tunnel.
So just a couple more questions, because I know folks have to get back to lunch and all that good stuff over here. So your last question will be, just hold it in your brain here. What would be one of your most proud moments, or what are you most proud of in the space of politics? But before we get there, could you just really unpack or share with us how people can get involved, especially young Black leaders, people in general? I mean, some folks really, they don't see a clear path to being on the Board of Education and serving as like the vice chair of a CREC council, or running for town council, becoming the mayor, and like doing all of this stuff. Like, what's that process been like? And anything else that you wish to share?
Yeah, so I think for me, I would definitely encourage people to just get involved. So you think about, from the Board of Ed side, get involved with local PTOs, get involved with local community groups and affinity groups. Make sure you obviously definitely register to vote, right? That's important, right? Make sure you register to vote. Get involved with your different town committees. If it's a Republican town committee, Democratic town committee, look on the town website. There's always those commissions, the seats that's available, the commission opportunities, boards and commissions that you can serve on. And it's sometimes I would say that, got the NAACP, you got the Urban League, but at times you might just need to create your own space, right? Something that we've done in East Hartford, when we formed the East Hartford Black Caucus, right? We have our own East Hartford Black Caucus where we're focusing on education, equity, and access, civil and civic engagement, political representation, equitable zoning, wealth creation, wealth equity, all of these things that we're focusing on in the East Hartford Black Caucus. You know, this was a space that we decided we wanted to create for not only for the Black community, but in the beginning of our mission statement that this caucus will benefit all families, right? So I think at times you just have to create your own space if the space is not there for you, but there are a ton of opportunities at the local level where you can get involved.
Okay, so I want to be a troublemaker, but we don't have enough time. But, you know, I always wonder, why do we as a community of Black people feel that we have to be, you know, inviting of other ethnicities to be a part of our organization? You emphasize all people. I guess I have the free liberty now of not being an elected official. And I can just kind of say how I really feel, although there's no discriminatory bone in my body, but I just feel, however I feel, it is important that we are very exclusive when it comes to supporting Black people. And you know, it's okay for the Black Caucus to support those in the Black community. And I'm saying that, not Tyron in East Hartford, because we don't need nobody in the East Hartford to be against Tyron, should he be interested in moving forward in a different position. But Suzette, share with us your thoughts on that as well. I know, sorry.
Wow.
It wouldn't be me if I didn't.
So I totally agree with Tyron. First of all, make sure that you're registered to vote. Secondly, there are boards and commissions that you can be a part of. Volunteer in your town. So before I even ran for politics, I served on the beautification committee. I can't plant for nothing, but they teach you, they give you some gloves and a pickaxe. Okay, so I did that. I helped to plan Celebrate Bloomfield. Whatever it was that I could do, I did. I was then and still am, along with my husband, a chaplain for the Bloomfield Police Department. Get involved. It's important that your voice is heard. As a people, our voice is the strongest thing that we have, right? So get involved, come out to meetings. I tell people all the time, especially around budgets, we're putting our hands in your pockets. Come out. Lend your voice to that conversation, right? Because everything that we do on town government will affect you some way or somehow. So just get involved. It can be just now that we have meetings on Zoom, get dressed from the waist up, attend a meeting, or better yet, turn your camera off, attend a meeting, lend your voice to the conversation in whichever way that you can. It's not sometimes an easy path because the people that have the seats don't want to give their seats up. But don't let that deter you, right? Because as Tyron did, he overcame 2 incumbents. And an incumbent is someone who actually has the seat and had the seat prior to the election. So just whatever it is that you're feeling passionate about, whether it's in your community, whether it's on a state level, or even on a federal level, and you can volunteer to get involved, that's your path. And sometimes if there isn't a clear path, get your own lawnmower or your shovel and make a path. That's
right. So really quickly, you have 30 seconds to answer this. What are you most proud of, Tyron?
For me, I would say being a founding member of the East Hartford Black Caucus. And I will also say the work that we're doing around diversity recruitment and making sure that we have a minority pool representation that's educating our students. And that's what I'm most proud of.
Awesome. Suzette?
So I'm going to just ask you to give me a little bit extra time because there's a few things that I'm proud of, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In the town of Bloomfield, we're 63% people of color. I am proud of being able to lead a council to stand up against some racial issues that we had in our town. To be able to stand up and say, no, it's not going to happen here in our town. You need to either get on board or get off the bus. I'm proud of the murals that we created at the town hall, on the walking trail, the MLK mural that we created at the Human Services Building. I got pushback for that. I got dragged in the papers for that. People made phone calls and sent emails and spent their money to defame my name because of that. But I'm so very proud that when Bloomfield had an opportunity to stand up, we stood up loud and strong. I'm also very proud when you hear residents saying, I didn't even know who the mayor was until you came on the scene. And you're so nice. And thank you for attending my son's funeral. Or thank you for coming over here when we had a flood. You showed up to make sure that my family and I were okay. I couldn't help them out in the flood, but I could hold their hands and tell them how sorry I am that they're experiencing it. But I think one of the first things that happened when I first got elected, we were invited to read Dr. Seuss on Dr. Seuss Day. And I went to the Laurel Elementary School and I read to a class of students in the library. And a young African-American girl came up to me and she held me around the waist. That means I didn't see her face to face until I brought her around. And she said to me, if you're my mayor, that means I can be mayor too. I swung her around. I embraced her. I got into my car with tears in my eyes and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I don't want to be mayor anymore. This right here was it for me. I don't want to mess it up. This was a good day. And I think that was it, right? Because what you want to do is inspire people to do and be better than what you are. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing I want to be able to do. This space that I'm taking up, whether it's the title of mayor or councilwoman or whatever the future holds, being a servant and doing so joyfully and intentionally, that's what is important to me. And before I'm done, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Mr. Brandon McGee.
No, this is not about me.
Hold up. We're talking about standing on the shoulders though, right? I knew Brandon for years. Brandon, I would be in my hairdresser because Brandon and Rosalie were very good friends.
These people don't know.
I know, but I have seen the progression of a Brandon McGee. And when you're talking about standing on someone's shoulders, it doesn't have to be someone that's older than you. Because Brandon, I believe, is younger than me, but that's a whole different story. But you see the path that he's carved out. You see the passion that has led him to where he is today. And that gives you hope, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not the cool suits that he wears or the bow tie or the hairdo or the glasses. At his very core, he's a servant. So if you can emulate that and make a difference in the world, you've done what you were created to do. So I'm standing on your shoulders too, my brother. So I just wanted to put that out there in space. I got more stories. Don't get me started. I got a lot more stories.
No more. Well, to our CREC community, thank you all so very much for taking time to just listen and weigh in on our series. Today's series, we focused on Blacks and politics. And today we are standing on the shoulders of Suzette DeBeatham-Brown and Tyron Harris. So if you may, or if you would like, please, behind your screen, give them a round of applause for sharing with us on today. Stay tuned for our next series on next Friday at noon. Make sure you have your lunch and stay after for the chat. Talk to you soon.